Thank you for having me, of course.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. Now, pronouncing your name right. It's just Daniel, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay, all
I
right,
wish I
perfect.
wish I wish there was a cooler pronunciation to
No,
it,
no,
but
your artist name makes up for it. Your artist name is hella cool. So that makes up for the I have a regular name too. I have Elizabeth, so that's about
yeah.
as by the book as it goes. But yeah, I mean, how have you been?
Good. Been trying to stay, not trying to, I've been staying as busy as possible with the pandemic
Yeah.
and just finding ways to kind of like uh shift gears and differently to move forward, because when the pandemic happened, it kind of I could curse, right? Can I curse?
Oh, absolutely, go for
Okay, okay.
it.
It kind of fucked everything up for everyone,
Oh
you know?
yeah.
So, but I've just been working and kind of preparing myself for when everything kind of starts coming back together, which it seems like that's happening a lot sooner than expected. So yeah, I've just been
Absolutely.
working. Yeah.
Good. I know it was very much so that we all kind of had to all of a sudden think outside the box and say how are we going to adapt? How are we going to be able
Yeah.
to stay in this industry and still be able to make a livable income without having to get another job, which we saw a
Yeah.
lot of our colleagues do.
100%. Yeah.
So for our listeners listening, this lovely human who's on the podcast today, his name is Felmax. His real name is Daniel. So Felmax, for our listeners kind of tuning in, just tell
hmm
us what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 28. It's funny. Okay, I'm 28. I'm from Venezuela, right?
Okay.
I lived in Miami most of my life after moved to Venezuela, but then I moved to Vegas, and now I'm based out of Concord, California. I produce music all across the board. So the Felmax project is mostly known for like bass music and trap and stuff, but I like to just make everything really. I have a project with Michael Martin where we do like a hip hop sad boy juice WRLD kind of stuff that we're working on. I have a reggaeton project with my brother. He's a rapper in Spanish and he makes reggaeton, so we produce that stuff too. I just like to produce everything across the board. And I'm a big into anime. And if you guys follow my music, you guys
That's
can tell.
amazing. I could tell with the
Yeah.
Goku when I was looking through your press package. I was like, "Oh shit," because I was not a huge anime, fan for a while until I had started dating my boyfriend, and when I started dating him, he's like, "All right, we're starting on episode 1. We're going to go all the way through." And I was like, "Oh shit, what am I in for?" But I loved it. It's just this whole,
Yeah.
and I see these like relative connections via anime into EDM, and I get it so
Yeah.
much more now, and it's so dope.
Yeah. And it's like I've themed everything. Like I get a lot of my inspiration from visual stuff.
Hmm.
So all my song names are anime themed, or if they're not anime themed, they're at least like X-Men themed or like something Marvel related. It all kind of ties back to the kind of like my childhood in a sense, which is I think is something that I've been doing with my product that I think is cool. Like so it's like if you like bass music, you can come for the bass music. But if you happen to like anime or Marvel or any of that kind of stuff, you might stick around longer for that too.
That's fucking dope. So when I think of the name Felmax, did Felmax kind of spawn from this anime based, Marvel based, or how did you come up with the name? Because it's not a name you hear every day,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I wish I wish it did. No. So I used to be in a production duo. We used to go by the House Cartel. Right. And by the way,
Okay.
I love all your pads. I just moved in,
Thank
so
you.
it makes mine very, very, very empty.
No,
Um
it looked like that for quite some time, and then
yeah.
I was like, "All right, I have to like decorate this and just all of that." And it's slowly coming together. I
It
have
looks nice.
Thank you. Is this blurry on your end?
It is blurry,
All
yes,
right, give
yes.
me 1 second. I'm
You good.
stopping. I'm starting. It's a great webcam, but it's just I don't know if it's getting outdated. It just sometimes has that focal point where it's like, "Hey, I'm just going to focus on your Starbucks cup instead of you, and we'll just use that as the main focus." But
Yeah, that.
okay, so back to Felmax. So
Mhm.
tell me the story behind that.
So, I really wish it could be something like anime theme, but I used to be in a production duo, well, DJ duo. We used to go by the House Cartel way
Okay.
back in the day, and I remember like we are super excited about this because we smoked weed and we wanted something weed related, and we
Mm-hmm.
brainstormed forever, and we
Sure.
came up with the house cartel because we made house music at the time, obviously, and it stands for THC, the house cartel. So we're like, oh, this is
Okay.
perfect,
I
this
like
is
that. I fuck with
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it turns out some guys had that name copyrighted, and then they were like, yeah, if you guys put out another song, we're gonna sue you. And I was like, yeah, mind this is like we had no big nothing, like no success in the music industry at all.
Yeah.
But so if you look at the house cartel right now on Beatport, it's gonna be like my very songs that I ever produced, but somebody else's face is on there, right? So
Okay.
we changed it to Felix House and Max Cartel. However, this guy never really produced, right? He never made music. He was just like he used to drive me to shows, and then eventually he was like, "Hey man, you mind if I get on the decks?" And I was like, "Sure." And that's how kind of we became a duo, right? So we
Oh, that's
went
a
by
funny
Felix.
story.
Yeah. So we went by Felix House and Max Cartel. And then people kept calling us Felix Cartel, who's somebody else. And I was like, that's not who we are. So then eventually we always talked about Felix and Max putting it together, coming up with Felmax. And
Okay.
then when I was there was at one point where I was like, listen, dude, we've been doing a project for like 3 years. He never produced a song. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you need to churn something in because I'm gonna crank everything with this project, or I do it by myself. And he was like, look, bro, I support you 100%. He's like, I just want to see you succeed. And I was like, okay, got it. So I took the name and I ran with it, and I've done everything that I've done with that name, Felmax. So yeah.
Awesome. Good to know the backstory. I feel like I see that with duos quite often, where you've got the guy who's the DJ, he does the touring, he does the traveling, and then you have the person who, makes the music. And
Yeah.
and I've always kind of imagined how complicated those situations could become if that, partnership was kind of looked at from an outer point of view, or one of the members is like, hey man, I'm doing all the work, I want to be playing, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And so that's really dope to hear that, your partner wanted the best for you, because I've heard of other situations where it
Oh
goes
yeah.
into a legal knockdown drag out.
I mean, look. At first, that was like I tried to paint it amicably. At first, he was like, "Fuck you! I'm keeping your monitors." He still has my monitors,
Oh
you
my
know.
god.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't that friendly. It was years later where like we came to peace, and then he was like, "You know what, man? Like, you're totally right. I just wanted what was best for you. I was just salty." So we did end up on those terms. But before that, he did have like a big blowout, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Look, what do you want me to do?" But
It's just that initial thing.
it's like kind of like it's more of like a pride thing, you know.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you can do this without me kind of thing, which I think ultimately it comes down to when people split, it's about somebody wanting it more than the other person, right? So they work more, or just different ideas created. That's something that I see will happen too. Maybe like somebody wants to pursue house, and then the other person wants to make future bass, and then it's like, okay, well then we're gonna have to split, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah.
So, when you were in the duo, you said you started as house music producers, correct?
hmm
Okay, and
hmm
then so what made you want to take that turn to bass music under the new Felmax name?
Okay, so um I used to be into really heavy electro, right? So I started making house, and then I got into like I'll never forget it. It was like Porter Robinson. He dropped like Unison, and he dropped the Say My Name remix for like I forgot who it was, but it was a massive remix. And that to me was like the introduction of bass music for me. You know, I never forget I was like sophomore year, I think, in Beatport, right? And I got into just really heavy electro, and I started kind of making just bass music at 128. Not good bass music. Let me rephrase that. I made an attempt to make bass music at 128. It was terrible,
I think
but
everyone starts there, though. Everyone starts at a
exactly.
terrible point.
So exactly. So I started with electro, and then eventually I just got into like Caspa, like way back in the day, Caspa and like Brusco and like old like Screaming Banga, old stuff like that. And I never really took my hand at it until I heard trap. Once
Mm.
I heard trap, I was like, because I never thought I could do like I would hear it and I can't envision what that would look like. Once I heard trap, I was like, this is kind of like hip hop. I was like, I can do this. And
Mhm.
then I just started implementing like dubstep sounds into trap, and eventually came to like a dubstep kind of standpoint, or like heavy bass music standpoint, you know?
Absolutely. And I feel like there's very few people who sit in that middle line between like dubstep, bass, and trap music. And listening to your guest mixer XO radio this past week, it was like all of your own music, but it's like that consistent sound that sits right in the middle. And you can tell that obviously these big players are looking for tracks like this, and the crowd is you know yearning for this kind of subgenre in the EDM market, because you have people like Excision playing your tracks out and all of these guys where it's like, damn. And that must just be surreal from the back end of being in so many kind of divots of this industry, to see the big guys being like, yo, okay, this fucks, this is dope.
Yeah, yeah, and it really is like, and thank you for bringing that up, because like I'll talk about this with my girl, be like, babe, what do I make? She'll be like, dubstep. I'm like, I don't make dubstep. I'm like, I make trap, you know. And it's
Yeah.
really, really cool, like to, like you said, to see that kind of like, I guess, like people picking up to that, because it's like it's what I love from both worlds. You know, I really love grimy, dirty basses, but I love the trap bounce, and that to me, it's like the perfect middle. So I'm glad that you noticed that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think of like you and Verg and Black Sheep and like Bilo, and it's just like I'm seeing all of you guys collectively get this huge, you know, crowd of people that, whether it was from quarantine or not from quarantine, they're like ready for like different fucking music and shit that's just like not atonal dubstep. And like coming from myself, who like I've made more kind of melodic future rhythm bass music for a long time, it was very hard to be accepted in a club setting when everybody was very into that like bang 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 sustained
Yeah,
bass dubstep. And now they're
quarter
like,
note.
we want more versatility. And it's really cool to see, like, from a consumer standpoint, people's ears maturing, and they're wanting more kind of, I hate to say intelligent dance music because that's just a shitty term. I should say more complex dance music, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I like, and to touch up on that too, somebody who's like, I think is doing what like that whole dubstep trap thing really well, Glades, you know? Like
Yeah.
Glades, he is just like, if we're talking about that, if we're talking about trap, we cannot talk about trap without mentioning Glades, because he is just like, at the, to me, like
He's
he's
a
one of the best
monster.
friends. He's such a monster. He's so good at what he does. But and like you said, it is really, really cool to see like the switch in, I guess, in the consumer's brain, where they're now kind of like tapping into these other things, where it isn't just sustain and coordinate, which that's great too. There's a reason why that works. It always goes
Mhm.
off. But there's a lot more to bass music than that. So yeah.
It's just cool to see the circle starting to expand. And from the back end of the industry, we all understand that most of the lineups this year are just kind of a continuation from 2020, where everybody's kind of already previously contracted, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But I think in 2022, it's going to be really fucking cool to see if these talent buyers decide to bite on all of these new kind of subgenres that have really emerged through COVID. And in my mind, they would be stupid not to. So it's just gonna be a really interesting like next 2 to 3 years to see how just the electronic, you know, dance music market in general continues to mature, and like what the fans are gonna want. Cause it's like I look at that like Wakan shit now, and that's all over the place too.
Yeah. No, no, and I can see it happening already, based off of like, so my old management, we never really focused on touring, or never really focused on playing shows too much, because we were looking at it from a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have new management, and we're doing things a little bit differently, but I can tell that like, based off of the show offers, because I'm getting show offers to play things that I didn't think I was gonna be playing for like another 2 3 years,
That's
you know?
amazing.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's cool. So based off of that, it kind of tells me like that it is like the market is shifting. And it's like I see people getting mad about the lineups, but you're right. It's just these are prior contracts that have to still, go into play. So
Mm-hmm.
it is going to be really, really cool seeing just like a bunch of new people playing. And you're already seeing it. Like right now, like I think Gom got booked for like Beyond Wonderland.
Yes, I saw
Yeah,
that.
so it's like you're seeing all these people who are like um somewhat underground just take these spots in these big festivals, and it just makes me feel more confident in the shift that's happening in the music industry for sure.
Absolutely. And I feel like that just kind of hits home with the point of, so many times I am just like, dude, is this like, is all of this work like worth it? Like, do I just keep going? Like I see things happen to other people, and understanding the back end, you're like, why the fuck is this happening? Da 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 da. And it's really like is a homage to I use Chris Baum as a perfect example of like you just have to keep working and don't quit.
Hmm.
And you have to
Yeah,
be like cognizant of your surroundings and your teams, because all it takes is one part of the puzzle to not fit and it's not going to work. But once you have
exactly.
those puzzle pieces all fit and that work has been put in and you're already at that 98th percentile, that 2-3% of luck is going to push you right over the top. So,
Yeah. And I always try to tell people too, like it's very, very it might sound like very, very cliche, but the key is to just keep fucking going. One thing that I attribute that has helped me out in my career, and I attribute this to anime, is just my state of mind. I've gone like through this music industry, so because of these dreams, you gotta take risks. You have to take risks, and you have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And I found myself in a position where I was kind of like homeless with just a desktop to my name. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I remember producing. I tell people about this shit. I remember producing, dude. I'll produce for boxes of pizza. You know what I mean? And I would make that pizza like last me a week, or like a bucket of Chinese fried rice, because who doesn't eat fried rice? And then make that like last me a week. But never that any of that change like what I knew I was capable of in me. So even if I'm homeless with a desktop to my name, a desktop that turns off every 30 minutes because it's fucking terrible, like that's literally what it was. I'm not gonna let that change the way that I see myself, you know? And it's important, like that right there, that being resilient and just keeping at it is what's gonna make the difference from the people who make it and the people who don't. Because truth is, you never know how close you are to making it. I have friends who are making it. I have friends who they have had their whole careers happen already, right? And I could have looked at that and seen it as, well, what about, no, it's not when you, like, for me, when you see somebody have like your close, somebody have like that success, like or somebody else in your close circle, to me, what it does is like, thank you for letting me know what's possible. Now I know that I can do that myself. So yeah, it's about just keeping the consistency, and no matter what, just keep going. You have to, the way I see myself is like train with no breaks. Doesn't matter what happens, whether I'm 50, 60, 29, it happens tomorrow. I'm gonna keep at this shit until that happens, because that's the way that you have to be about it.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna screenshot that, screen capture that, and just send it to all my students all the time, because it's so true. Because it's like so many people's journeys are so different, and it's so hard to tell somebody like, oh, this is step one, step two, step three. Like this kind of career path isn't like opening a box and following instructions. Everyone's journey is different, but it's very simple when you kind of focus in on having that energy where it needs to be, having your mindset where it needs to be, and having that close circle. And like you have to, work past this kind of mentality of resentment and use it as like motivation. And exactly what you just said, like you showed me what was possible. So now I'm going to go home and work 10 times harder because I know I'm that close. And it's,
Exactly.
it's, it's just, it's really, really cool to see so many people in different kind of career paths at different levels say the same things. And that's what
Yeah.
I've kind of heard so much throughout this podcast. But you do, kind of back to that teaching thing, you do mentorships as well now too, right? So
Yes.
so tell me
Yes.
about that. Did you do that pre-COVID, or was that something that was new that you decided to integrate kind of into your business?
So that was the COVID definitely forced me to kind of like just be a little bit more creative with the resources that I have and everything that I do, and just think of something new. So it started with, I'm sure you guys like, you know, the fire,
Oh
right? The
yeah,
Fire
shout out to
Society.
Fire.
Yeah,
Sorry,
shout out to Fire.
shout out
So
Alex. Yep,
big shout
absolutely.
out to Alex. So I started first just doing feedback there, and I really like doing feedback. Like I really like helping people with their music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with like one person booking a session here and there, and then another person started booking a session, and then I kind of like it came out to be now that I have like 22 students that are like directly under me that I do weekly sessions with, that I mentor, like three who have already gotten signed to Subsidia. Just like they're all like doing their thing, which is really, really cool, you know. But it started with the pandemic, and it just, this is why I didn't look at it as a bad thing, because I was like, well, it forced me to think creatively and then think outside the box, and you know, maybe get a little bit uncomfortable, but now I have like whole business outside of like what I'm doing that is now just taking care of, like, honestly just pays my bills,
Yeah.
you know. It kind of replaced what like touring would have been doing, and obviously now once touring's coming back, I have to find like the perfect balance. But I'll be honest with you, like I've done a lot of cool things in through music, you know, and this to me has been the most fulfilling thing I have ever done. So back to touch up on like that part when I told you, like when I would ghost produce for people and stuff for pizza and all that shit, I told myself I wanted to help out producers, right? Because I used to always work in restaurants and I would see so much wasted talent, you know, whether it be singing or people who sing or rappers or producers who just kind of gave up on their dreams. And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to one day put myself in a position that I can help out producers the same way that I wish somebody would help me out now,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And unknowingly through doing these sessions, like 6 months into me building my academy, I realized, oh wow, I'm doing that one thing that I said I would do at some point in my career. But
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't realize it, that I was doing it like right now. And it is the most fulfilling thing, being able to see people grow as producers, being able to see people who have like graduated from Icon and seeing them taking their production to the next step, and even people who have never produced before and seeing them get like hip hop placements in a matter of like 6 months. It is really, really fulfilling to see that happen. And out of everything that I've done, out of like everything, that is the most fulfilling feeling I've ever had in music. And I feel like I have never said that word as many times as I have in the past like 30, 30
No,
seconds.
that's amazing. No, that's so awesome. And I think it hits it on the head too. And it's like not only does it somewhat, make you better at your craft, but like having that ability to share knowledge with people who are like ready to work for it. Like I feel like it's just so different and so much more fulfilling than like ghost production per se, because it,
100%.
and you, without like going into details, obviously I know you exist on a huge level on the back end of the industry, and kind of how you spoke at the beginning. When you look at this, EDM industry of artists, I feel like you have one of two people. You have people who are, I love to perform. I'm a fucking DJ. I produce this subgenre. This is the lane I'm in, and I'm gonna stay in this lane, and this is what I want to do. And then you
Yeah.
have people like yourself, and you're like, I just fucking love making music, and I will make any type of music you need me to make, and I'll do
Mhm.
this project and this project and this project just because you fucking love it, and any way that you can share your art with other people, you're going to do that.
Yeah.
So in my question is, most people listening, I'm sure, have seen the recent kind of, Twitter beef and shit about these ghost producers, coming out,
Oh,
coming to the table. You knew I was gonna bring it up. But what do
oh
you
man.
what do you think about the whole thing? And we don't have to bring up names, we don't have to bring up X, Y, and Z. It doesn't matter who the people are. It matters about the concept. And I think that people don't understand that it's such a widely common thing for someone to be
Yeah.
ghost produced for. And do you think, I'm someone who believes that great tracks and great hits come from collaboration, but I
Hmm.
also believe that everyone who is part of that collaboration should be credited somewhat. Um and then but then, you also have guys who just have racks to spend, or mom and dad's money, and they just want to be a fucking touring DJ. And
Yeah.
we deal with that a lot too. So from your like personal experiences, I'm sure you've dealt with everyone across the board. what do you think about it?
Okay, so I'm not mad at people who need ghost producers because that's why I have a roof over my head. Like
Yeah,
it would
yeah,
be
yeah, no, for
so
sure.
hypocritical for me to be like, that's fucked up. But hit me up if you need those. You know what I mean? That would be like the
Yeah.
most hypocritical thing. I don't see anything wrong. It's happened for years in the industry, whether it be ghost writing, like I don't know why people I don't want to I don't people just have this false image that it's like one guy in the studio. It's just like Justin Bieber's new album. It was just Justin Bieber by himself locked in. No,
It's not
you're
how it
right. The
works.
best, yeah, the best it works, the best music comes out in collectives. Every song that you like, probably outside of EDM, because like for some reason there's a stigma. It's like, no, it has to be me 100%.
Right?
Even, but
Isn't that
even yeah,
crazy though? Can you imagine the
it's
music
insane.
we could get if there were more collaborators and more people in the
Yeah.
room? But yeah.
It would like you're 100%. You're literally, and here's the thing, some of the best records that we get in EDM, it's not that there's being ghost producers, it's just like, for example, yo, I'm gonna pass it to one of my homies. Look, I'm not scared to say it. Some of my old records, when they were mixed by Max Styler, my like Doe, Chapel, all those horn records, Raven, Max would swap out my kick if he deemed it necessary. I don't care. Thank you for showing me that through having a better kick, I can have a better song. He would swap out my snares. He would swap out my hi-hats. He would, if he felt like he needed to change my 808, he would change my 808, right? I see
Hmm.
no problem with that because I learned from that. A lot of times having that extra ear on your song, they might be able to pick up on certain things that you're not 100% going to be able to. Now, that specific to the scenario that you're talking about, I felt like that was just handled a little bit poor. If we're talking about ghost production in general, it's a part of the industry. It's going to be a part of the industry. People need ghostwriters, whether it be for production or for writing. Shit. Dude, so let me tell you this funny story. This is just way random. Just came to my mind.
Yeah, go
So
for it.
here's the thing about ghost producing. You have to just be very upfront with who you're working with and what you're asking for. Let me tell you a scenario that I had happen to me that is just the funniest thing. So I ghost produced this song for a random client, right? And I sold it. I used to sell him a lot of music, right? So I would sell him a song for $300. Very, very cheap. Very cheap,
Oh, that's
super
so cheap. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so cheap, right? But I didn't know this guy was going around and reselling that to other people,
Oh
saying
shit.
he was the ghost producer, and he was selling them like $900,000. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
So yeah, hilarious. So at one point, I finished a song for the guy. Let's say that I called it "Bombs Away." Bombs Away. Wait. Here you go, bro. I send it to him. In 30 minutes, he sells it to somebody else. That third party doesn't know I'm involved. So I get a promo on my DM saying, "Hey man, I have this new record. Would love for you to check it out." And it's called Bombs Away. Didn't even change the name. And immediately I'm like, this can't be the song that I just sold to this other guy. Like, no.
Oh
And
my
sure
god.
enough, it was the same exact song that I had sold to the other dude. So he had no idea I really produced it. So he made himself look like an idiot. I kind of trolled him. I was like, "Yo, I love your 808s. How do you get them to sound like that? Oh, that lead is sick. Just so I can
Fucking
see it.
with him. Oh my god. I feel
Just
like
so I
that
can see him fucking around."
unfortunately like happens more times than not. Like there's just like I just feel like there's sometimes people get this like stigma of like, hey, like I can just do whatever the fuck I want and that's gonna be
Yeah.
it. And it's like there's so many people too where it's like I've come across situations where, these people don't, don't have like an NDA or they don't have like their things protecting them and it's like that just like leads to like shady business and like all of that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So I don't know. I was just curious because you've done quite a few stuff, like quite a few things as a producer and like multiple faceted things on the back end of the industry. And I've also seen you do these remixes for I'm a Total Metalhead. So I've
Oh,
seen you
that's awesome.
yeah, put out these remixes for like Five Finger Death Punch and Papa Roach. And tell me that story because I want to
Okay.
hear about how this kind of came about because it's just this totally left ended thing. And now I'm seeing more things like I know Keizo and Sullivan King did a track with Papa Roach, and it's so cool to see kind of these guys starting to come together, because I look at dubstep, and the only reason why I like dubstep is because it had the same song structure as a fucking
It's
metal
metal.
track. You know what I'm saying?
It's
So
new age metal. It's literally what it is.
it's literally new age metal. So tell me about how you kind of got this window of opportunity with them and their teams.
Okay, yeah. So I actually used to I was living in Miami, and through my old management, I linked up with the guy from like the main guy from Five Finger Death Punch. His name is Zoltan Bathory, right? Um so his okay. Let me make sure I'm not breaking any clauses. Okay. So
Okay.
somebody in his circle needed ghost production.
Oh shit. Okay. We'll
Somebody in
just
that
say,
circle.
yeah.
They needed they just needed some production work done, right? And non like metal, it was actually like EDM stuff.
Okay.
And I kind of came in at the perfect time. Like I remember I went to his house one time and they were super, super nice to me, you know, and they was man, the dude's like a literal rock star. Funny enough, so growing up, I was actually the opposite. I was never into metal because
Okay.
I'm like in Miami, it's either you like hip hop or you like rock. You don't
Metal
like
does
both.
not exist down there. Yeah.
You know, and it's like people like you know, well, not even that's like it's either you like one genre or the other. You can't be like a hip hop loving metalhead. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist. In fact, like the metalheads and the hip hop heads, they would fight for no reason when I was in middle school,
Oh
you
my
know.
god. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I like Tupac and Biggie, so you know. And
See
I was
ya.
very
Yeah.
religious. Yeah, I was very religious, and like I remember the first time hearing "Down with the Sickness" and then hearing like "I'll be a good boy." And I remember that like really making me feel uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, maybe it's not for me. But in 2011, the first band I ever heard was Five Finger Death Punch, and
Okay.
the first one that I actually sat there and heard. And funny enough, I ended up linking up with the guy years later after becoming a producer. I love metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite band is System of a Down. I think they are fucking
Yes.
incredible,
Oh
you
my
know?
god. Dude,
Yeah.
if they ever come to the States again, I will be front row.
I think they're playing in LA actually in October. I
No
think they're
way.
playing in LA in October. Yeah, it might be sold
Boy,
out.
I may be going to LA in October.
Yeah.
They're
So
one of the few bands that I am downright just into.
they're
So
so
good.
fucking good.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up starting doing production work with somebody that needed the production in that group,
Mhm.
right? And I was over there every day, because we were in the studio all day. And then eventually, like the dude literally said, listen, man, like we have 4 extra bedrooms in this house. You're here every day. Why don't you just move in? And I was
Okay.
like, okay, mind you, where I was staying at, there was like in Vegas, there was like people were like having drive-bys where I was staying at and stuff, you know. And like he
Yeah.
would make a joke. He'd be like, 'cause he's Hungarian, so he'd be like, "You didn't move out of Venezuela to come move back into Venezuela. Come on, man," you
Oh.
know. So I stayed with them for a while, and through me living with him, right, I was able to link up with their management company. Their management company, they have this lawyer, right, and through him, we're able to get a Papa Roach remix opportunity. He was basically just like fishing, like, hey, so we got this EDM artist who needs remixes done. Papa Roach was the first person to reach out, and we did that Born for Greatness remix. And this was already like I was already living like a year and a half with the with Zoltan from Death Punch, you know. And I put out that remix, and then Death Punch they were going on tour, and at the time I was kind of splitting things with my manager and my old manager at the time. And the dude Zoltan, he was like, "Why don't you just like we're going on tour?" It was them and Breaking Benjamin. He was like, "Why don't you come on tour with us?" And I was like, "Okay, that's kind of nerve wracking, but sure, I'll
Yeah.
go on tour with you
Sure.
guys, right?" So while I'm on tour, they like I remember I had done minor work on their new album, meaning like just I gave them samples to use, and like I just gave them a bunch of stuff for them to pick from. Some of the
Yeah.
stuff ended up getting picked up, some stuff ended up getting trashed. But it was my first like, okay, I'm in the door. You know, I'm getting somehow working with some major artists, which is what I want, right? So I go on tour with them. They were working on the album. I had a few things like on a specific song that actually were my calls on how things played out. And they were like, why don't you just do a remix? Why don't we just do an official remix for the album, right? This one actually hasn't came out. I did 2 remixes for them. So I'm jumping a little bit all over the place.
No,
While
that's
we're on
fine.
the while we're on the road, they presented the remix, right? I went on tour with them and Breaking Benjamin. It was the most crazy experience of my entire life. Let me tell you how nerve-wracking it is to sit in front of 20,000 people that are like waiting for Five Finger Death Punch in fucking Middle America, and you're like, here's some dubstep. You know what I mean? It is the most nerve-wracking thing. I just remember thinking to myself, no one booed, you know, because people are strong in crowds. Like one person boos, two people boo. If two people boo, 10 people boo.
It only
Nobody
takes
ever
one.
booed. Yeah, but nobody, they loved it. Surprisingly enough, the way that I would like, I didn't play a straight dubstep set. I would play like Pantera and then dubstep. And then I play Metallic and then dubstep. And I would
Crazy
play like these
edits. Yeah,
classics.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Edits on
Absolutely.
edits. Exactly. And through me being on tour with them, playing that with them, you know, the label just showed a little bit more interest. They presented two remix opportunities for me. One of them already came out, and another one is still coming out. So that's kind of how that all came to be. It was literally just so I always tell like maybe like you've probably heard it. People say it all the time. Like success happens when preparation meets opportunity. The reason why I've had success is because I'm just prepared. I learned to make every genre. If I didn't learn to make that person that needed ghost production, they needed progressive house. Felmax doesn't have any progressive house in his catalog, but I'm still gonna learn to make it because I might need it. Through
Hmm.
me knowing how to make progressive house, I was able to make that really, really close relationship. And now I I'm really cool. Like I forever have a brother in Zoltan Bathory, you know, and that's one of the he's like to me he's like a legend in this industry, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's really how it all came together, and it's like I said, it's about just being prepared. If you're prepared when these opportunities present themselves, you can really really capitalize
Oh, definitely. And yeah, it's like kind of what we discussed earlier. It's like you got to put the luck doesn't work for 100% of luck. You
on
need to be
it. Mhm.
98% there just
Yeah,
for that opportunity to present itself and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm fucking ready. Let's go." And I think that's where it's, like if you are an up and coming artist, if you're an established artist, during COVID, I hope you've been working on music. Like I hope you've been,
yeah.
doing stuff to the best of your abilities because these
Or paying your ghost producers to work on your
yeah, or
music.
paying your ghost producer to work on music. There you go. Because these opportunities are starting to knock again, and they're gonna leave people who aren't ready. And
Yeah,
and it's just like the way that I think about it is, you know, if you're not putting in that 110%, there's someone who always wants it more than you, who's always
yeah,
doing that extra work. So, having that balance is good. I think that if it's about consistency. It's not about going balls to the walls and burning yourself out and then hindering yourself for the next week, for the next month, for the next year.
yeah,
It's about consistently having this schedule in which you allow yourself to take the amount of time that you need to sleep, to get outside, to have that break in order to keep improving because you're going to get there quicker than going on a fucking bender and wonking yourself out, you know?
yeah, yeah. I agree 100%, and that's something that I try to like just with like the mentoring, right? With all my students. That's something that with every session, I try to just sear that into their brains. It's all about like you get what you put in. It comes
Yeah.
down to that. And some to touch up on something that the Zoe, so to me, he's one of like he's the most successful guy I know, you know. So when he mentored, like when I saw him as like a mentor, like I just soaked everything. One time he told me this, right? He's like, you know why you don't have it? Because you haven't worked hard for it. You haven't worked enough for it. And to me, somebody who was spending all their time working, that was like such a shattering realization. Well, what do you mean? He's like, well, a lot of times, like maybe you're putting the work into the wrong place. Maybe you don't know what you're doing, so you spend 5 years running in circles, but you think you're actually putting work. He's like, have you actually spent all these 11 years that you've been putting on music into the right places? And when you start to look at that, you start to think, no, maybe he's right. One of the other things that he told me is that this was what like changed everything for me in my the way that I saw the music industry. He said a lot of people have and this is the gem. He said a lot of people have envision their success happening one way, but they block out any opportunity from it happening any other way. So they get attached to no, but let's say like I have to be a dubstep producer, but I have to be right. But maybe there's an opportunity for you to produce for Maluma and get a fucking reggaeton placement and make money doing that and make a career doing that and really take care of your family and your loved ones making music just in another realm. But because some people get so attached to these ideas and it has to be this way, what I tell people is it doesn't have to be anything because it can literally be nothing, you know?
Absolutely. And I feel like that is so much of the future of being an artist because, like, let's just be real. We don't, in this scene of bass music, it is not an incredibly lucrative scene financially, especially for an up and coming artist, unless, per se, you're ghost producing, you're doing X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
you're doing other stuff. But that, I don't consider that you. Putting that into your project. That's not you as Felmax. That's you
Yeah.
as Daniel making income via an audio engineer, via being a music producer. And it's like
Exactly.
you have to be able to think out of the box because I think there's such a special skill set that we have. And so many people are so close minded to thinking what you can do with this skill set. Oh my God, I've seen so many bass producers say, all right, yeah, I'll take a stab at making some hip hop beats. I'll take a stab at making some pop music. And they're just like, what the fuck? This is fucking easy. This is pie compared to what I
Yeah.
do on a daily basis. And then they get placements, and then they get somebody buying their song, and then they get somebody buying you as a lyricist, as a songwriter. And you just
Yeah.
made what you would make on 3 legs of a support tour, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, that's where I feel like our future is. And I look at myself and I could have never imagined me having a podcast. That's not what was in my mind ideally, or you yourself maybe being a teacher or all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
And but it's opened these doors, and then it adds value to your name as well. Like you having that Five Finger Death Punch remix, you having that Papa Roach remix, that adds so much substance behind the Felmax name that is then taken over into the bass music scene that you can use as leverage. And people just have to stop thinking in this box that they have to really see all these different opportunities that are like right there.
Yeah. No, no. Again, I agree entirely 100%. I tell people like I have a student in Romania who he's very like, so when am I gonna make money? Look, if you wanna become a millionaire DJing dubstep, I hate to break it to you, that's very hard. But if you open up your mind a little bit and you change that dubstep to just music, that's gonna open up a lot more possibilities. You know what I mean? So um yeah, there's so much like there is so and it's not about here's the thing, we do this because we love it, right? I make music because I love it. I need it for my mental health. I mean, like I told you, I was broke and I was still producing. So
Mm-hmm.
um however, I just had like the big okay, sorry, I had a brain fart.
No, that's
There's
literally
so
me
much
all the time. I'll
I
just
don't know,
look in front of
this is
me.
crazy.
My dog will stand underneath my studio monitor and just stare, and I'll be talking, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, I just
What
had
the
a
fuck?
crazy brain like aneurysm, totally went away." But anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
There you go. There's money to be made in this industry. There's so much money to be made, whether it be in syncing and licensing. That's something a lot you don't know when you first come into this industry.
Mm-hmm.
How much money there is to be made through doing just that. I have friends who they that's all that they do. They just okay, what who needs what? They contact music supervisors. They get these sheets from music supervisors, um, and they just fulfill what is required, and they make their career doing that. There's other people like, for example, you could do a podcast, you could do teaching, you could produce other. There's so much that you can do to kind of like succeed in this industry, especially if like that's really what you want. Like ultimately, I think what we all want as producers, like um, is just to be able to take care of ourselves and the people we love making music. That to me is like I have a million goals. That is the ultimate goal. To stay here, to stay where I am now, to be able to keep taking care of everything through music. And I think with a little bit of an open mind, people can see that there is multiple outlets. And it's like one thing I hate is people who try to discourage other producers, newer producers, like don't come in this shit because you're not gonna make money. Like what I say is if you're gonna make dubstep, you're not if you want to make just dubstep, you probably won't be a millionaire, but you can still make it in this industry. You can still take care of yourself through making music. This
Yeah.
idea that other producers put on sometimes, it's like, no, you're not gonna make any money, and it's like pure negativity. It's like I hate seeing that because it discourages other people. You know, like I have students who will be like, hey, so I was watching this interview with this guy, and he said that even though he had a gold record, he still had to work a second job. And to me, I see that I'm like, well, that's a bad business on your part. You know, that's not, this industry sucks. If you have a gold record and you didn't make any money and you didn't weren't able to capitalize off of that, that's not this industry sucks. Nobody ever produced. That's, you had one song that you had bad business. Learn your mistakes and keep it going. You
Mm-hmm.
know? So I feel like I'm all over the place. But yeah, there
No,
definitely
you're
is a
not.
lot
It's
of
you're
opportunity.
spitting gems. You're good. You're
Okay, good.
good.
So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities in this industry. You just have to be prepared. You just really have to learn to make everything. You have to become a chameleon and adapt. I can't stress that enough. If you really want to succeed in the music industry, just become a musical chameleon. Learn to make every single thing. The way I see it is every genre is an opportunity for me to connect with fans that might not know who I am. Right. So just because Felmax doesn't make country that doesn't mean Daniel Moore can't go on the back end and produce for fucking Jason Aldean. Are you kidding me? That would be fucking amazing, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think like every genre is an opportunity to connect to people. And if you want to look at it from a business standpoint, every genre can be looked at as an income. You know, if you're making money from dubstep, right, from playing your shows, and on the back end, you're getting your placements in hip hop, you're getting your recurring royalties with all the other genres, reggaeton, and everything else that I produce. It kind of like it's each thing becomes its own income.
And it all adds up, and I think that's the goal that everyone should really have is, to wake up one day and say like, hey, I'm making my living off of music and I'm living comfortably off of music. And it's also to know that just because you open your mind to doing other things, such as, making those other genres, getting those placements, teaching, that doesn't mean that that income isn't going to be filtered in to what you really have as your number one. What I make from teaching or what I make from ads for the podcast, I put into Lizzy Jane.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and you do the same thing with Felmax. So it all adds up. It's just you, instead of waiting around to twiddle your fingers, you're just being proactive and working. And unfortunately, a lot of people just don't want to be proactive and work. They want somebody to knock on their door and say, hey, it's your time. We're ready
Yeah.
for you. And unfortunately, in this industry, that happens little to none.
Yeah, I really do wish that's how it worked, you know, and it comes, and sometimes it doesn't even come down to like who has the most talent, who works the hardest. Some people, like you've seen situations where
Oh, yeah.
somebody would just get lucky flat out right from the jump, perfect, like they
Who
like
you
not
know?
lucky. I mean, yeah, like they have like the
Yep.
money to fund everything, you know. So, but I wish it was like that, but the harsh truth is that it's not, you know.
And I think the biggest thing is that you'll see shit that pisses you the fuck off, but at the end of the day, you just use it as motivation and you understand that, you can't compare your situation to anyone else because you're not in the same shoes as anyone else. So you have to work with what you've been given. And, I think that's where the best artists come from, in my personal opinion, is when you have these artists where it's like they got to work for it and they love it at the same time
Yeah,
too, and
yeah,
it's great to be in a comfortable position, but it's also great to have that passion and life experience to drive the music that you're making, because you hear it
yeah,
in the music, you hear those experiences. And I don't know, it's really cool. And why I wanted to have you on really was to obviously talk about Felmax, but the other side of that is that I know you had done so much work on the back end, and I just really wanted you to talk about the the possibility of having these options and opportunities that will be presented to you, and if you're ready to take advantage of them, they can help
yeah.
skyrocket your career.
Yeah, 100%. It comes down to being able to, I mean, look, you have to, it sucks, but you have to be like one man, one woman team, right? So like
Mhm.
when me and my old manager split ways, it put me in a position where it's like, okay, you have somewhat of a reputable name, but you don't know shit about anything. You have no label connects. I was kind of just left in the, and it kind of left me there to kind of fend for myself. But one of the things that I learned was how to do the job. What I mean by that is, if my manager isn't doing his job right, but I don't know how the manager's job's supposed to be done, I'm not gonna fucking know. If my PR isn't doing their job right, but I don't know how to do PR, I'm not gonna know. tour man, you name it. You know what I mean? So I went and I learned how to. I worked for like the Five Finger Death Punch dude. He had a label, so through working with that label, I started doing all the releases myself. I started setting up like Spotify release campaigns to artists that have never put anything out, and I was able to get them on New Music Friday. I was like, oh, okay. So when I pay somebody $2,000, this is what they're doing.
And you're
Oh,
like, what the
okay.
fuck? Okay.
Exactly. Or like PR, PR, not to bash on everybody who does PR, but like I've seen people throw out some rates like $1,500. Let me tell you right now, a good PR person has to do their job one time. The first time they make that connection with the blog or magazine or whatever the case might be, But I learned how to do everything, and it kind of just adds more value because now I'm just not just a I got I got beats, man. You know what I mean? Now it's like I can offer a lot more than just music, which if that's all you can do, that's perfect. That's totally fine. But I found myself in a position where I kind of needed to be a one man fucking team and kind of take care of everything. So that's something I urge people to learn the industry. Read. I'm sure you've read it or have talked about it with people. Everything you need to learn about the music industry. That is a incredible, incredible book. Like if you want to do something, really like learn everything that you can about.
I have it downstairs on my living room table. I've gotten
Exactly.
the last few editions. It's a wonderful book, but it's like that's what I tell everyone too because it's so easy to say, "Hey, I'm a manager. Hey, I'm an agent. I got you. I know what I'm doing." But if you have to understand that, as an artist, you're the boss. You're the head honcho. You're the employee because if you're not there, no one's making money. And
Exactly.
and the more that you can be knowledgeable about all of these positions and what they're supposed to be doing properly, the better off you're going to be because I can't tell you how many artists I've worked with, past situations I've been in with, past management, past X, Y, and Z, where it's like you just see people hinder artists' careers because they don't
Mm,
know what these people should be doing and how they should be doing it properly. And the
yeah.
more that you can understand that from a back end, I always tell like all of these new artists, they're like, oh, like, well, this, my friend wants to manage me. This person wants to manage me, X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, look, you don't need a manager until you can't do something yourself. And you really
Mm-hmm.
should understand the PR, the contracts, the this, and that, because you don't want to turn around one day and say, how the fuck did I get put in this hole that I'm now stuck in? And you see people get in that hole all the time, and it's cool to hear from somebody as established as yourself, and a commonality with other artists where it's like, hey, you really should be educated on the basics. Now, I'm not asking you to be an entertainment lawyer. Don't go,
Yeah.
don't go think you can do X, Y, and Z, but to know what all of these roles are and what they should be doing properly is a huge advantage point that unfortunately a lot of artists aren't educated on.
Yeah, and it's like when you start making music, that's the thing. Like when you start making music, you think it's like, okay, I got a song, I put it out, I release, and then you know, and you don't realize how much thought that goes into it. Earlier, you had mentioned something about kind of like being on schedule. This is something I try to like. I have students that are like, listen, man, I want to put a song out. They're like, I'm itching, and I'm like, it's not just about putting a song. I was like, you put a song out right now, so you can take care of that instant gratification. Then what? What do you have to follow that up? You don't have another song as good as this one. You still have to work, right? So a lot of times people they don't know how much work has to they think is just put a song out on the no, you gotta think about branding, you gotta think about marketing, you gotta do a rollout, you gotta do Spotify campaign. If you gotta find somebody at Apple, you gotta do a SoundCloud repost campaign. You know what I mean? There's a lot more that goes into it than just putting a song out. And that's something that all new producers should 100% be looking into, and I think which is why these mentorship programs, because obviously a lot of people are doing it, and it's amazing because it gives newer, younger producers a chance that I didn't have, chance that you didn't have, which is
God, I
to be able
wish
to
I
have a
had
one-on.
someone. Yeah.
Exactly, to have a one-on-one with somebody who's like has the connections and is more established, and they can tell you exactly how to do things rather
Mm-hmm.
than you having to figure it out for yourself. That's amazing. So, for anybody watching who's like a new producer and you guys really want to make it in this industry, or whether it be this or anything else, just educate yourself. That's one thing that about me is that I become whenever I like anything, I become obsessive. Like so I used to be into and I used to want to play the NBA. I knew everyone who played high school basketball. Like all the top high school ball players, I knew who they were because I saw them as my competition, right? I got into UFC. I know everybody about, like, I know every fighter, right? I'm into Marvel and anime. I just fill my brain with every piece of knowledge. I become obsessed. So when I came to the music industry, I was like, I gotta know everything. Who's what does who, what's this label, what like even right now, like what's happening on the back end, what the fuck is going on. And sometimes when I don't know, it irks me, so you have to become obsessive, you have to really,
Mm-hmm.
really become obsessive with it, and just obviously find the healthy balance. But
Just dive right in and don't think that you have a place that you have to stay in. Like the
mm-hmm,
more knowledge you can know, the more books you can read, the podcasts you can listen to. There's so many great outlets for every type of learner now, whether it's visual, interactive,
yeah,
listening, and it's just kind of like, if it's a priority to you, you'll make the time to do it. That's what I see, cuz you'll make the time to watch Netflix. You'll make the time to go to the gym. Okay, make the time to read this chapter in this book. Make the time to watch this YouTube documentary series. And
yeah,
and that's what it is. And so much of it is time, and kind of what you said earlier when your mentor was like, "Hey, you've been working for this long. Where have you been, where, maybe the work hasn't been distributed correctly, or hey, like maybe it just hasn't been enough time." And that's what I tell students. I talk to other people, like Crisley was on the other day, and he's just like, everyone who I see who's in your position is just rushing to get to the finish line. And you can't take shortcuts in certain aspects of this industry, or you're going to get ahead of yourself. You got to
yeah,
breathe, and you have to work at your own pace and make sure you're establishing these blocks of bricks instead of straw that's just going to get blown over next year, and then you disappear, and then was all
yeah,
of it really worth it? And the goal should be, everyone's goals are different, don't get me wrong, but I know for you and I, our goal is to be able to make a living for the rest of our life off of doing music in different
yeah,
facets of the industry. And it's nice to see places like the Fire Society, all of these things that have come out of COVID, where there are these mentors now that are giving this advice to up and comers, where it's straight answers. There's no beating around the bush, and there's something, I think, very special to that, especially in an industry where people like to gatekeep these secrets and not let people know what to expect or how you're
yeah.
supposed to approach something.
Yeah, which is, by the way, which I think is preposterous. Like I'm not with that gatekeeping shit at all. Like I do sessions with people, like, and I'm like, okay, so here's like I literally have students who will ship me their hard drive, and I'll give them my entire sample library,
That's
and I'm
amazing.
like, here's Fab Filter, here's every plugin that you need. Because the way that I see it is, I have to give not just show you the tools, but I have to give you the tools so you can really, really, like prep yourself. And the whole gatekeeping thing, I'm so against that. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough, like, everybody can be successful. The
There's
way I
room
see
for
it is
everyone.
exactly. It's like if you're a producer and you feel like you have to gatekeep some sort of anything, I think that's really telling about your confidence as a like. For example, if I'm like, if I have this sample pack, but I can't give it to you because if you have it, then you might actually make music that's good. It's like I don't understand the thought process behind that. There should be no gatekeeping. Everybody should everybody should be willing to help out everybody else. You know what I mean? Like I don't I know it sounds like some fairy utopia shit, but it's true. There's room for everybody. There's no reason why everybody can't be successful. And I think it would make for a lot more healthier industry if people were a lot more open to helping other people out. Because there's this kind of constant like at, with depending with who you're working with, there's a kind of constant like kind of watch over your back thing in the industry. It's not good for the artist's mental health. So I
Mm-mm.
think if this was something that just became a lot more, I don't know, common overall throughout time, it would make for a healthier industry. I think. You know?
Absolutely. And it's like, this is people in your position's opportunity to also pave the way for the next people, you know, and producers and artists in electronic music. And it's like, wouldn't you want them to have all the tools necessary and all the knowledge necessary in order to do some next level shit in 5 years? And
Yeah.
it's like you have to have that foundation there. And we finally kind of have this opportunity to try and educate people as much as possible. And I feel like gradually I'm seeing more people like you and I. And whether it's on the underground, you know, I understand in the mainstream, I get it. I hate the gatekeeping thing, but it's also in the back of my mind. That's the way the wheel spins, and I don't expect it to start spinning another way.
Yeah.
However, the more people that are open, and you know, as a girl, I'm like, you know, all the girls kind of get thrown in one cup, and it's like, hey, there's room for all of us. There's not room for
Yeah.
just one. And the more people can have that perspective, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, and which is something else that I hate. Like you can see when the lineup is trying to, in their mind, hit a quota.
Yep.
And I'm like, you guys realize you look dumb by doing that,
Stupid as
like,
fuck. Like literally
but
so stupid. Yeah,
it's like it's
yeah.
very apparent what you're doing. It's very obvious. Like, no, well, I'm not going to talk about anything specific, but it's
Yeah.
very telling. It is very, very telling on that. I mean, I can imagine. You're like, I can't. I mean, I can't even imagine that. That's just must just be a headache maneuvering this industry as a woman. Because I already it's a headache right now, but I know how guys are. And
Yeah.
no, I'm not even talking about industry. I'm just talking about fan. I'm just talking
Mhm.
about like it must just be barbaric. So I
It gets
commend you
I
very, very highly.
appreciate it. It gets pretty wild, but I also have to say that there's more women doing it every day. So there's a, you know, it's crazy to look at the growth on our side where you've gone from maybe knowing on one hand some regional producers that are also women to now there's a bunch of them and they're
Yeah.
everywhere, and it's super cool. And it's like, you know, at the end of the day everyone has to deal with shit. Like, it's part of life, and you can either look at it as like, poor me, this fucking sucks, X, Y, and Z, or like, hey, I have this advantage by being a woman in this industry that if I work hard I can really kick ass and it can open a lot
Yeah.
of doors. And that's
Yeah.
something that is really cool as well, you know. But kind of circling home, there's room for everyone, and the more that people can just be open about it. Like, I've never sat down, like when I learned guitar, when I learned bass, I would go to CMH, I'd go to the Guitar Center, we would all jam. You know how to do something? Okay, you're gonna sit down and show me. And then when I
Yeah.
got into electronic music, it was like, oh, I can't show you how I did this. Oh, I can't da 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 da.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no reason for that, you know? There's
Not
just
at all.
no reason. But it's just very nice to hear kind of what you've been up to. And is there anything that is coming up that you're excited about that you want to share with us? Anything we should keep our eyes open for?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a song coming out on the 17th. I'm back on Subsidia. I don't know if I was supposed to
Woo!
announce it, but this is the breaking news.
Yay! No, that's awesome.
PureEDM.com. I'm like,
Yeah.
doing another Subsidia release. This one is named after Jujutsu Kaisen, my new favorite anime. It's a collab
Oh.
with Blaze that's coming out.
Oh, hell
I'm
yeah.
playing, yeah. And if you haven't watched Jujutsu Kaisen, you should definitely watch Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay,
It's
I'll check it out.
it's
You'll have to
incredible.
message me the name and then we'll
I
we'll get
got
it.
you.
Okay. All
Look,
right.
I'm gonna message you three things you 100% have to watch. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Jujutsu Kaisen is one. So I have that coming out. I'm playing in Bellevue, Ohio on the 21st. I'm playing in Pennsylvania, somewhere in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry to the promoters. I don't
No,
remember
you're
exactly
good.
where it is. On
That's
the
awesome.
29th, I am playing some shows in Denver coming July. So all that's coming out, and I just have a ton of stuff with Michael Martin. If you guys like vocal EDM records, you guys are gonna be familiar with Michael Martin. Me and Michael Martin have some incredible, incredible music coming out. It's a project. It's like a duo between the two of us, where I produce and he sings, and we kind of come collectively and like kind of put everything together. And it's what I'm most excited about. I love dubstep. I love bass music, but to me, producing these like pop records with big vocals is what I want as a producer. So something you guys should be on the lookout for. My Bad Moods project with Micah Martin. It will be coming out soon, and a house project that I'm gonna keep anonymous. So obviously, I had no point in me bringing it up, but I am working
Gotcha.
on some house music that's gonna come out very very soon, and surely I'll come out and say that it was me, guys.
Yes, yes. That is so amazing to hear. I'm so happy for you. You'll have to send me some previews of the pop
Yes.
stuff, the bad mood stuff. I would love to hear that. I'm a total pop music connoisseur. Same thing. I do enjoy writing pop music a shit ton.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, please send to me. So happy to hear of all your successes. I really hope that we do, you know, internet to in real life at one point this year. It would be
Yes.
wonderful to finally meet you. I greatly appreciate you, Daniel, for coming on the show to talk. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a good week. All right.
Thank you so much for having me on, and hope you have a good week too. I'm gonna be sending you all that stuff, and please watch Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay.
I will. I will send you all the information. All right. Thank you so much, Daniel. Have a good night.
For sure. Bye.
All
You
right.
too.
Bye. See ya.